Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome, everybody. We are a small but mighty crowd, and I have already noticed lots of new people whom I do not know. So please, everyone, make sure that you introduce yourselves and show what a warm and loving congregation we are, even though there are few of us who are representing the many. So welcome to everybody who's an old-timer and a new-timer and a visitor, all of us together. This is Kira Goldman. I'm Addie Schneider. We are doing services tonight. Rabbi Cernovitz will be back in his normal spot here next week. And please remember also that this is the last week when we will be starting at 7:15. We'll remind you again at the end of the service, but starting in August, starting next week, we will go back to our 8 o'clock service, okay? So we will begin with a little bit of warm-up music on page 10 with Hine Ma Tov. Please join in.
Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Thank you, dear. All right, we begin our actual service with the lighting of the candles. The blessing is on page 2, and I'm just going to do a little reading on page 3 as an intro. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. And I'd like to invite up my little Banot Mitzvah ladies to light Shabbat candles for us.
Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear my prayer to you. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say amen. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say amen.
This is Karen Manley and Vivian Brostrom.
Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotov v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And just to give a little plug for our adult education here, we love having adult B'nai Mitzvah classes. So anybody who didn't have the opportunity at the, quote, normal time of 12 or 13 and would like at any point to study and be called to Torah, come and talk to us. We would be happy to help you. Okay. Let's continue with the responsive reading on page 9. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain.
On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share.
There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted.
On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation.
There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others.
On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal.
And let's read the end of it together. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. All right. Continue on page 16. It's traditional to begin the service with lots of different readings from the Psalms. And a lot of times we don't do much of that because there's so many other things having to be thrown into the service. So you'll excuse the fact that I stuck some in. Okay? Let's read page 16 together. Sing praise to Adonai with the lyre and melodious song, with trumpets and the blast of the horn. Raise a shout before Adonai the ruler. Let the sea and all within it thunder, the world and its inhabitants. Let the rivers clap their hands, the mountains sing joyously together at the presence of Adonai. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly and its people with equity. You know, I read things like this, the lyre and the song, and I think about how sad it is that there are groups of people who feel that music should not be a part of a service, when obviously it's a joyous event, and way back in ancient times, you know, song and musical instruments were very much a part of everybody showing their love for God and for each other. So we do a lot of that here as we join Kira to sing Shalom Aleichem on page 24.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi-melech Malachei Halachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi-melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi-melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Tzeitem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We turn to page 26 and rise together for the Reader's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma divrach Yerutei V'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon u'vyomechon Uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'gala, Ba'gala Uv'izman kariv V'meru, Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevorach La'olam ol'olmei almaya Yitbarach, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yithadar V'yit'aleh V'yithalal Shemei Dekudesha Brichu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damihiran be'alma v'meru. Amen. We remain standing for the Baruch Hu, the official call to worship, the official beginning of our evening service.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Yadadai, ladai, 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 Yadadai, ladai. You may be seated. We're going to be talking and reading a lot about the idea of time and the passing of time. And so it seemed appropriate tonight to continue on page 30 with the prayer that's called Ma'ariv Aravim, the bringing on of the evening. And I'm going to try to read the Hebrew, and then we'll read the English together afterward. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach sha'arim, uvitmuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochabim b'mishmaratehem, b'rakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Uma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzevaot shemo. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. So now let's read together what I just read and think about the beauty of the whole creation and how God makes everything work. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates,
thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsebaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. For those of you who are not as familiar with our particular prayer book, our Siddur, one of the things that's beautiful about it is that the English that's directly underneath the prayer itself is a fairly true translation of the Hebrew. The writings that are on the opposite page are sort of complementary readings to what we've just done. So if you don't feel like doing what we're doing on the even page, feel free to find something that you like and you want to keep reading on the odd pages. Okay? All right, we are going to continue on page 34 with the Shema and go right into the Ve'ahavta on page 36. And we are going to do it the way you're supposed to do it, that because we are seated at the time we get to the Shema, we are invited, it's perfectly okay to remain seated. If you prefer to stand up because you're just more comfortable standing for the Shema, then I invite you to rise. Either one is fine. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Somehow I just realized that. Oh, never mind. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol lebavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha, vidibarta bam, vishivtecha v'veitecha, uvlechtecha v'derech, uvshochbecha, uvkumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, uchtavtam, Al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha Leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai Vitem kedoshim lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot lachem lelohim, ani Adonai Elohechem. And in keeping with our belief that we should do things both in Hebrew, because it's tradition and it's Lashon HaKodesh, the holy language, but we should also do things in our own language so that we understand them, I want to also point out to you the beauty of the things that are on the odd pages. So instead of singing You Shall Love the way we normally do, I would like us to read together the more interpretive translation that's on page 37. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep on mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. Okay. All right, let's turn to page 39. At this point, we typically read something that prepares us for the concept of freedom. The idea of crossing the Red Sea to escape Egypt and to behold the wonder of God and the miracles that God provides for us in our lives today. So we are on page 39, singing, we'll sing Mi Chamocha, but this we're going to read on page 39. There are like 3 little sections up at the top of the page, and we can just do them alternately. I'll do the first, you do the second, and then we can wrap it up together. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot.
That wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, and that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness.
Together, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. And so now we continue with our joyous singing of Mi Chamocha on page 40.
Who is like you? Who is like you? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Who is like you? Who is like you? Awesome and holy God Most High. Who is like you? Who is like you? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Who is like you? Who is like you? Awesome and holy God Most High. We see you show your power in our escape from the sea. We sing out all together, Ze'ili, Ze'ili. Who is like you? Who is like you? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Who is like you? Who is like you? Awesome and holy God Most High. Who is like you? Who is like you? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Who is like you? Who is like you? Awesome and holy God Most High. We feel your unending love. Your people are redeemed. We sing out all together, Ze'ili, Ze'ili. Who is like you? Who is like you? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Who is like you? Who is like you? Awesome and holy God Most High. Who is like you? Who is like you? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Who is like you? Who is like you? Awesome and holy God Most High.
A Kira Goldman original. Great, thank you. Yeah, she deserves it. When we wake up in the morning, the first prayer that we say is thanking God for waking us up, helping us to have survived the night and reach another day. Interestingly, in the evening, we say sort of the same thing in reverse. praying to God to guide us and guard us during the night. And it contains one of the most beautiful phrases that I love, Ufrosalenu sukkot shlomecha, and shelter us in your sukkah, your tabernacle, your covering of peace. And I love that. So we are on page 42 with Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom. V'hamidenu Malkeinu lechaim. Ufrosh aleinu sukkot shlomecha, ufrosh aleinu sukkot shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen.
Oh, I thought we were going to do amen. All right. That was nice lyrical. Now we're going to get to something a little bit more rowdy with Vishamru on page 44. Join in, please.
And if you know the choreography, you can do the choreography.
Yeah.
Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת.
There, we got it.
לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. בני ובן בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם.
Oh, great. Okay. From that, we move to the true center, the essential prayer of our service, the Amidah. And we will stand, since it's actually called the standing prayer, on page 46. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that your mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot B'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, L'man Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Abraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rab Lahoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umkayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umito Melach, Melech Memit, Umchaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Ata L'Hachayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. You may be seated. Now, you may have noticed that I added a couple words in there that nobody expected. And I love the reason that they are in our book. In Israel, the rainy season extends from the fall. Usually the first rains come while you're sitting in your sukkah. And they end in the spring at Passover time. And from April to October, there is no rain, although sometimes there are exceptions. But normally there is no rain at all. And so in Israel, obviously everybody has this prayer that they get enough rain in the country between October and April so that it fills the reservoirs and it sustains the country, that's what it is, then from April to October when the rains start again. Adding these two little lines are a representation of our feeling of connection to the state of Israel. That even though we live far away, and Israel is only in our minds and our hearts, unless, of course, you're going in May to Israel on the rabbi's trip, we add a line in the middle of this prayer. You'll notice that in the winter, we say, Mashiva Ruach Murid Hagashem, let the winds blow and the rain fall. And then in the summertime, which is where we are now, obviously, we say, Murid Hatal, let there be dew, so that at least there's moisture on the grass to add to the rain that we have. So hopefully we're adding things in little by little as we are able to. Okay? Let's turn to page 53. Just a nice little reading here. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Blessed are you, God, the eternal God. We turn to page 56. For a special reading, we will talk more about this when we get to my sermon in a few minutes. But you'll see in the middle of the page that there's a special reading labeled for Rosh Chodesh, Pesach, and Sukkot. Okay, obviously it's not Pesach, and it's not Sukkot. So that means it must be Rosh Chodesh. That means tonight is the beginning of the new moon, the new month of the month of Av. Okay? In Av, we have the 9th day, Tisha B'Av, that some of you may know. Most people only know it because they went to summer camp, and there's always a program at camp. But it is sort of like the Black Day in the Jewish year. It's the day when traditionally we remember the Spanish Inquisition, the day when the Jews had to leave. It's the day when the first temple was destroyed by the Syrians. It's the day when the second temple was destroyed by the Romans, and all around, terrible day. The day that the Warsaw Ghetto fell, all kinds of awful things that happened. That's the only thing that happens in Av, thank goodness. And because we start on Tisha B'Av to read the Book of Lamentations, so, that's the one that says, all is vanity, everything is terrible, we're all going to shrivel up and die. It marks the beginning of the readings from the prophet Isaiah to be uplifting and giving us hope. So tonight, we are marking the beginning of Rosh Chodesh. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, ya'aleh ve'yavo v'yiskor zochrenu v'zikaron kol amecha beit Yisrael lefanecha letova lechen ulchesed ulrachamim lechayim ulshalom b'yom Rosh HaChodesh hazeh. Zochrenu Adonai Eloheinu bo letova. Amen. You can say amen with us. Ufakdenu bo livracha. Amen. V'hoshienu bo l'chaim. Amen. Let's read together what I just read. Our God and God of our fathers and mothers, on this first day of the new month of Av, be mindful of us and all your people Israel, for good, for love, for compassion, life, and peace. Remember us for well-being. Amen. Visit us with blessing. Amen. Help us to a fuller life. Amen. We come now to the time in our service where we call to mind people who need a little bit of extra help. They may be ill. They may be looking to have surgery. They may be suffering from anxiety, any kind of problems that they may have. And so we hold them in our hearts and we mention them in our prayers tonight. Before we do our Misha Berach, our prayer for healing, we want to remember these members of our congregation and friends of our congregation. Adrienne Shapiro, Al Justin, Alan Silverman, Ansley Levy, Arthur Newman, Asha Patel, Athena Pick, Barry Rosenblatt, Blake Hull, Bob Lucisano, Bruce Cohen, Dr. Bruce Fox, Carol Silver, Carter Silk, Cindy Beaupre, Claire DeVoskin, David Strauss, Debbie Rohan, Debbie Singerman, Dee Singer, Dennis Baser, Diane Leroy, Donald Schaefer, Elaine Bridges, Ellen Jarrett, Ellen Luster, Elliot Kirshner, Aaron Hess Fisher, Esther Greenwald, Ayal Ben Audrey, Faye Yeager, Gary Weisblatt, Helene Holtzman, Gordon Goldsmith, Grace Miner, Gloria Goldsmith, Greg Mosher, Isadore Cohen, Jack Wayman, Janet Brooks, Jerry Barrett, Jessica Berkeley, Jill Shepard, Joan Niga, Joe Marks, Joyce Newman, Judith Siegel, Kathleen Forsch, Kathy Rasnick, Laura Jacoby, Lauren Friedman, Lee Sexton, Layla Kamener, Lisa Macklin, Lisa Oppenheim, Lisa Prince-Rutsky, Liz Lyman, Lori Sherman, Lowell Morrow, Marcia Levy, Marilyn Krasnov, Mark Fisher, Max Gans, Marlene Kaplan, Dr. Mary Watkins, Maxine Bucciarelli, Melissa Smith, Michael Dietrich, Murray Perloff, Nancy Shalit, Nicole Aronson Silberman, Norman Rosenblatt, Pat Fisher, Patty Savage, Paul Grayboff, Philip Kaufman, Phyllis Mix, Piper Lyman, Ralph DeStito, Ray Clark, Richard Barker, Rick Hack, Robert Corey, Roberto Maybisher, Sarah Berry, Scott Dobo, Charlene Jacoby, Shelley Bitter, Sherry Rosenblum, Stephen Despins, Susan Levy, Dr. Tim Mooney, Tom Wysox. Sorry. We were just talking about having trouble with names. Wysokzinski, Valerie Simmerman, Yarden Meir ben Yitzchak Melech. And if there's anyone in your heart and your thoughts that you would like added to our Misha Berach list, please just speak their name out loud.
Beverly and Tracy Friend. Berach Avotenu ve'imotenu Abraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah Hu yevarech et hacholim. To those who need healing, we hold you in our thoughts with love and hope you are feeling us strengthen you and hold you up. We give you our compassion and our care. We do all we can and then we offer prayer. Berach Avotenu ve'imotenu Abraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah Hu yevarech et hacholim.
Also a Kira Goldman. At this point in the service, I've done a lot of talking and we've done a lot of reading together. Now it's your turn to have some time to have your own conversation with God in whatever way you'd like. If you want to use some of the prayers that are in the book, feel free to do so. If you have some things you want to say to God yourself, go for it. Our rabbis tell us that God understands whatever we say and whatever we think, even if we don't put it into words. So take a few moments for your own silent prayers.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו,
Join in.
הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן.
Different tune, same words.
Yai la 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 la, yai la 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 la, yai la 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 la, yai la 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 la, yai la 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 la, yai la 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 la, yai la 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 la, yai la 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 la.
Okay. So if you noticed in all of the news that went out from the temple with the list of Friday night services and who was doing it and what the topic was and all of that. So then you saw that Kira and I were doing services and that the topic is, it's about time. And I figured that that was enough of a grabber for you to wonder what in the world I'm talking about. So now's the time to find out. How can it be Friday already? Where did the week go? How can it be the end of July? Where did this month go? There's a song from the late 60s that I absolutely love, a soulful melody written and sung by Judy Collins. Who knows where the time goes? Who knows where the time goes? More and more often, it seems, that's the theme music of my life. I blink, and it's tomorrow, next week, next year. I turn my head, and the child who in my mind is still a curly-haired toddler is a grown woman with a child of her own, and that child is already 6 months old. It's said that when we're young, we want to speed life up, and when we're old, we cry for things to slow down. Judaism builds into our consciousness a lot of ways to mark the passage of time. We noted one of them earlier in our service when we read the blessing for the new month of Av. Because we live Jewishly, according to the lunar calendar, the new moon in the sky marks the start of a new month. In the long ago time before Google Calendar, bonfires would be lit on hilltops to send out the word that the rabbis had certified the sighting of the new moon to make sure that everyone was on the same schedule. In fact, that led later rabbis to add a day of celebration to all our biblical holidays, except for Yom Kippur, of course, to account for the time it took for word to spread to the outlying communities. That's how Rosh Hashanah became 2 days instead of 1, and Sukkot and Passover were and are still marked for 8 days and not 7, as they're actually described in the Torah. But I digress. That lunar calendar thing truly complicates our lives sometimes. The Gregorian calendar, which pretty much all the world lives by today, is a solar calendar with 365 1/4 days in a year. Everyone adds a day every 4 years to account for that piece of a day. But the lunar schedule has only 354 days. If we can remember the record albums that many or most of us grew up with, it's like putting a 78 that goes like this onto the turntable on top of a 33 that goes like this. What happens is that the tracks or the days on the 78 move faster than the tracks on the, I can't do it. I can't coordinate to do it at the same time. But the 78 moves faster than the tracks on the 33. So they play earlier and earlier in the repertoire. Pretty soon, the Jewish dates are occurring much earlier than the Gregorian dates they started off on. So Rosh Hashanah moves earlier and earlier in the month of September, and Hanukkah is 3 weeks before Christmas, and sometimes even on Thanksgiving weekend. We can't handle that, though, because most of our biblical holidays are tied to the harvest seasons. Sukkot has to stay in the fall because it's a fall harvest festival. And Passover must be the harbinger of spring. So we go things one better than the Gregorian, with a complex formula to tell us when. Every 3 to 5 years or so, we add a full month to our calendar to push everything back to where it should be. That's how Rosh Hashanah can be September 3rd one year and September 29th or even October 3rd the next year. And yet it still starts on the 1st of Tishrei. Another constant reminder of the passive Jewish time can also be seen this Shabbat in the weekly cycle of reading Torah. This week we read a double portion called Matot Maseh, and why it's a double portion is a lesson for another time. It's the very last reading in the book of Numbers. Next Shabbat, we begin the book of Deuteronomy, and that marks another kind of time passage. In Numbers, the Israelites are still making their way along on their journey to the Promised Land. Deuteronomy begins at the shore of the Jordan River as Moses begins to prepare the people to enter that land. Talk about fleeting time. Only 5 weeks ago, we read the story of the scouts sent to spy out the land when everyone was terrified at their tales and refused to move forward, leading God to angrily condemn them all to 40 years of wandering until all of those wusses died out and their children were ready to enter. Whoosh! In 5 weeks, we've seen 40 years go by. Talk about not knowing where the time goes. Truth is that we can neither speed time up nor slow it down. As the 70s band known as the Alan Parsons Project sang, time keeps flowing like a river to the sea, till it's gone forever. If there's one expression about time that I truly detest, and I shudder every time I hear someone say it, it's the notion of killing time. You know, I have an hour to kill, so I think I'll go shopping. Or, she was just killing time until her friend arrived. Wow. With time so fleeting and so uncontrollable, how can we not place value on it and treasure every moment of it? How can we allow ourselves to even think about killing it? In the book of Jewish Values, Rabbi Joseph Telushkin talks about the wastefulness of killing time. Every 5 minutes, he says, can be used for something positive. After all, in 5 minutes, you can write a note to a friend or read a chapter in a book. He advises, quote, try today, and if you can, tomorrow and the day after, to make a special effort to fill those otherwise wasted moments of your life with content. Use a notebook, if necessary, to mark down the wasted moments as well as the time well spent. Then he goes on to quote author Herman Wouk, writing in his famous novel, The Caine Mutiny. The hero of this story receives a letter from his father, who's dying from cancer, and reflecting on his own life. Acknowledging that he achieved so much less than he'd expected or hoped for, the father cautions the son, and this is what he writes. Remember this if you can. There's nothing more precious than time. You probably feel you have a measureless supply of it, but you haven't. Wasted hours destroy your life just as surely at the beginning and as at the end. Only at the end, it's more obvious. I won't tell you if the son heeds the words. You'll have to read the book. On this Shabbat Rosh Chodesh, on this last Shabbat this year for reading from the book of Numbers, let us all become more mindful of how precious time is. Give extra thought to what you will find to constructively, joyously fill your time for the rest of this Shabbat, and next week, and next month, and next year, and all of the rest of your life. Time is so evanescent and so finite. Make every moment of it count. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. We continue with our service on page 282. Please rise for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula leotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kagoye haratzot, velo samanu kamishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kachol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Please be seated. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. Let me read that again. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools, this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. At this point in our service, we remember first those for whom the anniversary of their death is marked. If you are observing a yahrzeit, please rise when I call your loved one's name. Helen Anspach, Morris Applebaum, Kathleen Brabant, Celia Braverman, Carrie M. DeGue, Arnold Goldman, Jeanette Gordon, Dora Haas, Betty Jacoby, Albert Kacher, Beverly Schwartz, Edward Shapiro, Herbert Tasman, Lorraine Van Gelderen, Sandra Weiss. And those who have died in the past 11 months, whose love we carry with us. Gary Landau, Julie Diamond, Jay Piesek, Bart Allen Siegel, Ross Capstein, Morris Almale, Edith Rindner, Victoria Levy Stolzberg, Yehuda Fadlan, Margaret Meehan, Irvin Wilson, Beverly Samuels, Richard Pinklert, Mimi Polin Vararo, Tanya Milstein Palmer, Gladys Mannheim, Doris Turkel, Stanley Goldberg, Fred Harrington, Lucille Cohen, Ben Rothfeder, Harriet Daniels, Joseph Goldman, Cecile Wolfert Gudelski, Barbara Markowitz, Hal Lieberman, Michael Cohen, Fred Fine, Stacy Hill, Robert Weiss, Donnie Price, Harry Mix, Marvin Abish, Don Lamberg, Stuart Voskin, Mel Gorndon, Mark Stiller, Howie Levner, and the most recent, Jack Zabar. We take all of them into our hearts, and we rise as a congregation to give our strength to those in mourning with the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah v'alma di vrach hirute v'yamlich malchute v'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ul'almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitadlev v'yithalal shemei dekudusha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata da'amiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May all whose memories we remember be for a blessing. You may be seated. All right, we have a bunch of announcements. I didn't pick up a copy of the handout, so I'm not sure. A lot of these announcements may very well be in there. I just realized this is supposed to be anniversary Shabbat, but I don't have a list. We just say, oh, okay. I don't know. So remember, as I said at the beginning, next Shabbat, our evening services begin at 8 o'clock, and every Friday night from then on. And Shabbat morning Torah study will resume on August 6th at 9 o'clock in the morning in the chapel, in the conference room with Rabbi Cernovitz. That morning we also will celebrate the bar mitzvah of Noah Holland. So here are our announcements. Have you ever wondered about the allure of Mahjong? Come and learn what it's all about when WRJ brings back free Mahjong classes starting July 31st and also on August 7th. Come at 10:30 a.m. for both or just one of the sessions, and you can register online. The L'Chaim community is offering coffee and kibbutz, co-sponsored by Age Well Atlanta Neighborhoods, on Tuesday, August 2nd at 11 a.m. Coffee and social time, and then at noon there'll be vocal stylings of Nick Moret performing Broadway songs. So come and hang out and have a nosh. The end of summer cookout will be Sunday, August 14th from 5 until 7 in the social hall. Come and learn about all our community has to offer, see old friends that you might have not seen in a while, and meet new friends. And we don't have to worry about the forecast because we'll be inside with burgers, hot dogs, veggie options, and more. There'll be activities for the kids and opportunities for adults to learn about everything that TKE has going on. The event is free and open to everyone, but we need you to register. Tee Off for Men's Club and Camp Jenny. Spend a memorable day with friends supporting a terrific cause. Join TKE's Men's Club for our 24th annual golf tournament that supports Camp Jenny, which is a program at Camp Kol Emeth up in Cleveland, Georgia, where children from underprivileged, lower income schools and neighborhoods in Atlanta are invited to come up for a weekend where they can enjoy the beauty of outdoors. So the tournament supports Camp Jenny on Sunday, August 28th at the Fairways of Canton. I have no idea where it is, but my husband probably knows. It's an entire day of fun with free breakfast and lunch, and of course, lots of golf and prizes. Visit the TKE website to register or to make a donation, even if you don't play. Don't forget the Nosh Fest is back. Join us at TKE on September 4th and 5th, Labor Day weekend, for live music, arts and crafts, and a kid zone, including a petting zoo and face painting. By popular demand, this year's anniversary event will feature more home-cooked traditional Jewish foods. If you're interested in helping out in any way at all, including cooking those traditional Jewish foods, email us at tkenashfest@gmail.com. And information about all of these events and more can also always be found on the TKE website, www.kolemeth.net. And please join us in the social hall after we finish for our oneg. Please rise for Kiddush and Motzi. Do we have? Yep. There it is. Okay. Whoa. Forgot about that. Sorry. Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kadsho, b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'charta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kadshecha, v'ava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Thanks, God. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Have a wonderful week. Be mindful of your time and enjoy life. Join us in this social hall.